Welcome back, fellow Illumineers, to be our guest. I bet you thought you weren't going to see me till the next set. Oh, Heath just does draft review videos and then goes back in his cave. You're not wrong. But I've been wanting to do more than that for a long time. I wanted to, I really did. But life and circumstances keep conspiring against me. But I finally managed to go after it. So what we're doing today is we're doing a live draft and gameplay video. So you'll see the whole draft from my perspective, and you'll see all 3 rounds of gameplay, best of 3, that I go through. You'll get to see all my picks, my cuts and inclusions. You'll get to see my mulligan, my hand at all times, so that you can truly play along at home and tell me in the comments all the things that I did wrong. This was quite a big undertaking for me. I was really particular with the production quality of this particular video and what I wanted to see, the fact that I wanted you to be able to play along. I hate watching gameplay videos and having to guess at what's in their hand or even what they've played because the cards are so tiny on my screen because I tend to watch it on my phone. So I really wanted to make sure that this was at the level that I would want to watch myself, and I hope you appreciate that. But ultimately, normally I don't try to ask too heavy for, all the many things that all the content creators like to ask for. It makes me feel icky. But I would really, really appreciate any support that you can offer to drive this video to get in front of more people. Any comment, any like, any share, especially the sharing it out. Because ultimately, my goal here is for more people to see it and hopefully be like, oh, I'd love to do that. That looks like a really fun format. Let me ask my LGS about it. And if you're stumbling upon this or it was shared with you, hey, if you like what you see, talk to your LGS about it, your local game store, talk to your play group, and see if you can get something going. Usually you want to have 8 people minimum for a draft, but 6 can usually work. I'm going to try and make some more videos like this in the future, and I'm going to try and also touch on what's called Cube Draft, which is kind of a free version of draft that I'll get into later. But anything you can do to help promote this amazing format, it's something we got to do together. We all got to kind of push because there's not much of this content out there. And I really feel like I shouldn't be the one driving this bus. But here we are. So let's do it together. If you're like me and you really don't like seeing just the raw content for gameplay, you like to see the production value, let me know in the comments. If you couldn't care less and you just want more content, doesn't matter about seeing all the cards and all that, let me know in the comments. If you're starting to question what you're even doing here in the first place, by all means, let me know in the comments. Without further ado, let's jump into it. I'm going to be trying to comment on this live so I don't have to edit too much, so bear with me as this isn't necessarily the most elegant speech in the first place, but let's dive into it. Alright, so we're into pick 1, pack 1 here. And, alright, not a lot to start out with. Some decent vanillas. Cybug's okay, so I pull that to the front. I try to make a habit of pulling the cards that I'm interested in to the front. Sven, I think, is likely to be a bomb. Jasmine and the Queen are both excellent. Specifically, spoiler alert, I think Jasmine is the card that's gone up most in my estimations since even before the first draft, just kind of thinking about it more, and then certainly through this draft, Jasmine has gone up a lot more for me. So spoiler alert, Jasmine's going to be the one that I'm picking, but I was really debating the Queen because I don't really like starting with an uninkable, but, the raw power. Obviously, Panic, very, very good. You don't see it because I tried to cut here, so there's not a lot of dead space. But after pulling the cards I'm most interested in to the front, I also have a habit of shuffling them afterwards because I don't want the person to my left or right knowing my thought process, knowing what's desirable to me, because that basically eliminates the chance that I'm going to see that card back. Panic, an obvious pick there, one of the few removals in this set in my A tier. If you watched my review videos at all, if you haven't, check them out, especially if you're still doing drafts. A lot of people tend to just do drafts the first week, but talk to your LGS. If you're loving draft, talk to them about hosting more. Talk to your play group about doing more. Lots of great cards in this pack. Fidget is obviously off the charts. I think it might be one of the best cards in the set. Snow White I have above this, but Fidget is incredible. So no question there for me, but lots of good cards in that pack. Cheshire Cat, not in love with, but it's removal. It's not great removal. I would argue Double Trouble is better. Giant Cobra is better still. So I try not to money draft. In fact, you'll see later just how little I do, but I actually want this card for my constructed deck, and it's like a $10 card. So the right pick here is Giant Cobra. Let me just be clear. The pick here is Giant Cobra. I'm just going to take this. This is literally the only card of value I took out of the entire draft. So I'm trying to show you on the right here, as I go, my picks. So you can kind of see how my later picks are going to be informed by what's in my stack. Now, playing at your LGS, you're probably going to play casually like we are. We tend to stack our cards in the order of their ink cost. So you see, I've got only one drop, but I've got 5 3-drops. Gaetan is really the only pick for me here. Elsa's kind of a little bit spicy, but the 7-drop on Inkable just is too much for me. And the other bodies just don't interest me. I like the 3-cost Inkable 3/4s. I think they serve really well, and you'll see in later gameplay, he doesn't get out much, but he serves his purpose. Toby is one of the few 1-drops I'm really excited to see, so happy to see that, because the 1-drops are brutal in this set. A couple of other decent bodies, but there's plenty of competition at the 4 and 5 drops, so it's Toby for me here, hands down. Anyways, so we tend to put our cards in piles. Technically speaking, by the rules, you're not allowed to do that. In draft, what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to put all your cards face down in one pile, and then in between packs, you can take a look at your cards to try and get a sense of, okay, how many 1-drops, 2-drops, 3-drops, uninkables versus inkables do I have? That's technically the rules. It's unlikely that your LGS is going to hold you to that, but just be aware of that. Even at DLCs, when I was doing drafts, they weren't holding us to that. So if you're unfortunate enough that I pulled out the Water Has Memory, the foil Water Has Memory for Katie, Lore Keeper's In, shout out Katie. Big fan she is of Water Has Memory in draft, because she just wants to hose her opponent. But I think here Helga Sinclair is the obvious pick. You gotta have cards to deal with the bases. And so I want to have that Helga in the bank. Tramp. Didn't rate it super highly. Rated it highly, but rated in like kind of mid-B, high B tier. It's, from what I've heard from others' feedback, from your feedback, thank you all for those who share what you've been experiencing at your drafts. And from my own personal experience, Tramp is overperforming big time. Again, I think I marginally prefer the 4-drop here, the 4-cost 4/4s. But because those 2-drops are so hard to come by and so meh, in this situation, I'm absolutely valuing Duchess higher. It is unfortunate. So the other thing that kind of holds me back is the ally tag. The 4-drop Tanada has ally, which I really like. Berlioz here has ally, which I'm a big fan of, especially having Jasmine, right? Like, I think I'd be taking it at this point anyway, just in case, but having Jasmine all the more so. But it's not enough to make me want to not take the 2-drop when I know getting a decent quality 1-drop and 2-drop might be really hard in this draft. Not a bad last pick. 5-drop, 6/5. I prefer the 5/6, but the 6/5's not bad, right? Not a bad last pick. Really, there was no super dead cards out of that first pack, which is a great place to be. If you can average 2 dead cards or less per pack, you're happy, right? Because you're going to ultimately cut 8. Play a 40-card deck. Unless you're really, really struggling, play a 40-card deck. Again, not surprisingly, first pick, lots of great options here. I think Wendy and Panic being at the top. This actually came up. Shout out to the 40born Discord. If you really want to talk limited, I don't want to put an invite in the show notes because they expire. I still got to figure out how to do a non-expiry one. But there is a Discord that's like entirely dedicated to limited. The 40born guys spearheaded it when they were doing limited content. And this exact situation came up. Wendy Darling versus Panic. Which do we prefer? And a lot of people on there preferring Wendy Darling. It is definitely the more powerful card. But I'm so choked on removal, and I like typically playing a tempo game. Like some aggression mixed with tempo cards. That mid-game removal is going to mean a lot to me. So I prefer Panic in that situation, but I'm absolutely not going to fault you for taking Wendy there. So in this pack, I mentioned I really want to go after those quality 2-drops, but I don't think Elsa's strong enough here to be better than Sven or Pete. Again, I tend to prefer a tempo game, so I tend to prefer lower cost. So I was really hesitant to take Pete here. I think Pete is the stronger card. But I wanted to take Sven here just because it's that 1 ink less. That's enough for me to really prefer that. I think in hindsight, you'd be fine either way, and I might now in future take Pete above Sven here, but I think it's so close that you really can't fault yourself for either. It's still early in the draft, so we really can't say where our drops are going to be. That's another card I was happy to get late. Tika, 6-drop late. That's a playable card for sure to get that late. Again, really the only dead card here for me is Sapphire Quill so far. And I took that because it was foil. It is playable, but it's not high for me, right? Alright, here we've got a couple of 4-drops that are reasonable. But it turns out the rest of the pack's kind of trash here, which is unfortunate. So it's Tanana versus Dr. Calico. Again, Tanana has the ally tag, but I think Dr. Calico is just so much stronger. 1 less strength, but resist +2 to begin with is huge. And ironically enough, we end up with the almost an identical pack here. Dr. Calico and Tanana. Kronk, I put as an F in the draft review because it's an uninkable. And I said I don't really care about the combos with like a Mulan or something like that. What I didn't consider is a card I already have, which is Tramp. It combos ridiculously with Tramp. Tramp says draw cards and discard cards equal to the number of other characters you have in play. If you have like 4 or 5 characters in play with Kronk and you drop a Tramp, you're just drawing that many cards. Oh, that's ridiculous. So if you've got 1 or 2 Tramps, I might be tempted to take Kronk. It's still uninkable, but as you can see here, I'm really low on uninkable counts anyway, and I ended up being at the end of it. So, yeah. Once again, we're in a situation with, I think, some really equivalent strength cards here, but for me, the 2-drop's going to win because I'm just anticipating I can find a lot more quality 3-drops, and I'm going to struggle for 2-drops. This pack's basically trash. All of these are like D or better for me. The Stabbington Brother, I think, is decent. The 4-drop uninkable 3/4 rush, I think it is pretty solid. But again, this early, I'm not that keen to be stocking up on mediocre uninkables. So I think I'd almost rather a D quality card here than an uninkable. And so I think TikTok's probably better. I think I took Pepper here just because, you know, it's like so marginally different that I wanted to try out Pepper. But I think the better quality card there is probably TikTok. Again, happy to see a good 1-drop right at the front here. Really, Susie's kind of the only other playable card for me, and it's not even close. So this was an easy card shoulder. I don't even know why I took this long slamming it down. All right, so in this pack, we've got Peg, which is really the only reasonable one in here. But let me just speak on Peg for a moment, because I kind of downplayed her a bit in my draft review video. Some people are very high on her. And fair, I don't think she's great, but she's not a huge risk, right? A 2/4 body on a 3-cost inkable isn't a massive risk, and the upside is really strong. I just don't want you drafting her assuming that you're going to get that upside very often. Specifically in this draft, I never really saw her, so I can't really speak to her much. There was a point where I was able to play her, and she did all right. But yeah, just don't rely on something that's going to need that much.
Yeah. That can just go into the cut pile.
I left the audio in for that part.
Oh, that is so bad! He just ripped the card!
The Daisy Duck.
He shredded it! The 8-cost Daisy Duck, because it's uninkable.
Hey, I could have made a button out of that.
Yeah. Could have. You might still be able to.
Riley's
out of,
pain.
you know.
Feasting
I
off of
need
it.
1 1/4 inch.
Next time.
No, you can put it back together and like it'll be just it'll be like a do a collage Daisy.
Yes.
Pin and
Watch you lose all of your subscribers because of that.
Challenge accepted, Riley. What you saw there is I go through my packs in between just to kind of check where I'm at. So if you're wondering why I was looking at those stacks of cards before opening this pack. That's why. So, not surprisingly, another stacked pack. I mentioned earlier that I would prove to you that I don't often money draft. You'll see here I am taking a Fidget over a foil Donald Duck. Love the art. I probably would have enjoyed having the foil Donald Duck, but I'm like, in like a week or two, it's going to be like $5. It's not going to be worth that much. So I'd rather just have the Fidget and go for the W, because I do it for you all. I do it for the content. I do it for the win. I do it for you. But yes, a person to my left was surprised that I passed the Donalds. But here we are. But I needed that Sapphire Coil, man. Foil Sapphire Coil. For me, I think that long-term is going to hold more value than the foil Donald Duck, which is wild. All right. Where are we at next? I have no interest in Wake Up Alice. None whatsoever. I know some people are interested in it. For me, that is too much of a card disadvantage and too circumstantial for me to be that interested. On the other hand, I love Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I don't rate them super high. I think high B is like the highest I rate them. But I've mentioned many times, I like to be a tempo deck. I like to control the game early while pushing a little bit of aggression, kind of pivoting mid-game. And a card like Tweedledee and Tweedledum are going to allow me to quest for 2 lore while affecting my opponent's tempo. Or rebuying something of mine to bring it back out again so I don't run out of gas. So it could be quasi-card draw, quasi-tempo. And 5-cost inkable 4/4 2-lore body isn't very far off rate, so all those things combined, I really like that card. Mother Gothel here. I was debating between Raja and Mother Gothel. I think she's much more powerful. I think I regret not taking Raja here because I think I struggled for quality 2-drops in the end, and Mother Gothel just really didn't do much in this draft, but just her potential is so much higher. So I do think, though, that you need a certain amount of bodies that are going to retain damage for her to be really effective. We're back to Wendy Darling versus a better early game card. And I'm going to say again, I prefer to have the early game than 7-drop. I find Wendy to be replaceable. She's one of the best of the 7-drop inkable evasives. But she's still a 7-drop inkable evasive. I'd much just rather the early value play of a body that's going to control the early game, draw me a card so I don't run out of gas, allow me to keep putting pressure on, so that by the time the 7-drops come, I've already won. That's my style. You got to find your style. Let me say very much so. You got to find your style. If you try to force it too much, if you try to just be me, you might not do well. If your playstyle complements my recommendations, great. This one's a no-brainer, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I want to speak to Beagle Boys from the last pack for a moment. Very powerful. Was a little bit clunky in my deck. I think it is very similar to Mother Gothel. It's going to benefit from bigger bodies, which I don't have a ton of in this deck. Again, I'm going more for that tempo play. So I think that they would be better in another deck. So you're going to see that they don't play out particularly strong in my deck, but I think they would be better in a different deck. Berlioz here. I'm loving it so far. The 5 willpower, the ally, great. Again, do I prefer the 2-drop? I think at this point with the double Elsa, I prefer Berlioz here, but it's debatable. I don't know why I point to Beast here. It is bad. Maybe just, hey, that's interesting. But yeah, Pacha is the obvious play. He's only going to be really good half the time. You know, on the draw is usually when you're going to see him be very good. But if half the time he's very good and the other half he's ink, that's okay. I think the pick here should have been Mariano. I took TikTok because I think in a vacuum it's slightly better. But I think given that I've got some really D-level or worse 3-drops in my deck so far, like I've got like 4 of them that I count here, between Pepper and the 4/3 3-cost and Calhoun and, you know, maybe even Pacha that are kind of borderline. Maybe not Pacha. So let's say 3 right now. I think I'd rather have the 3-drop, but it's debatable. I also noticed I didn't add TikTok here into the list. So TikTok's in here, but I forgot to add it, and I'm too lazy to go back now. All right, we're on to the next pack. Lady has really started to impress me even more so. Already impressed me in the initial response when I did my reviews. But the more I think about it, the more I build out my decks, the more she's inclined to my style, which is that early tempo. So I'm going to want more 2-drops and 1-drops. I think that Lady plays out really well. As you can see here, I don't have a lot of uninkables in my deck, so I'm not super worried about that. So, yeah. I end up pulling out a few that I think are reasonable kind of other options, but I think Lady is so far ahead of everything else in this deck. So Mother Gothel, Jafar, the Action, Double Team, and I think I pulled one other. Anyways, all reasonable, but far and away Lady is the best card in this pack, so wasn't particularly hard. I'm getting pretty high on 5-drops, especially since you don't see TikTok in here, so I'm at like 7. I'm at 7 5-drops at this point, which is like the top that I want to be at. So that's something to keep in mind. It's going to prevent me from prioritizing 5-drops kind of going forward, but I think that's fine. We're getting near the end, and Lady is too strong to say, oh, what if I pull another really strong 5-drop that I'm going to want to prioritize. And I'm never shifting her, by the way. I will never, ever, ever draft that 1-drop Lady. Ever. I could have all the traps in the world. I would never draft that 1-drop Lady. Don't give me an uninkable 1-cost 1/2. No. All right. We got an interesting decision here, which is Fazu versus Miss Bianca. I think Fazu is the better, stronger card. But I'm already wanting to go the kind of ally build. It really benefits from this deck. And Fazu is really suffering from the same problems that Beagle Boy and Mother Gothel is in this deck. Is it's not really a strong, challenging deck. It doesn't really have the bodies to be challenging a ton, right? In a deck with the double fidgets and in a deck with Peg and Jasmine and even Sven that wants to be challenging, but it's only a 2 strength. Fazu isn't really going to be as great, so I'll probably have to make some undesirable challenges to trigger him. So I think I'd rather the card that is better for my deck, but not necessarily as strong in a vacuum. So I take a lot of time on this pick. Just going to put this out there. You can skip forward a little bit once I'm kind of done saying this. But the problem is that Moana is definitely the much stronger card here, more so than the last pick that I was just talking about. Moana is much stronger, but I'm already really stacked for 4-drops, and I'm really slim on 1-drops. And I know there's players out there that are like, I don't care about 1-drops. I can skip turn 1. I can just ink. I'm telling you, especially if you watch the gameplay, please stick around and watch the gameplay, that I think I demonstrate that you can't dismiss just an early tempo play, even if it's not going to be as strong. And Mulan is the best of the 1-drops. So the best card in an ink cost that I'm underserving versus a really strong card in an ink cost that I've already got a bunch of really strong cards in, I think makes this a no-brainer. I should have slammed Mulan here, but I take a while thinking about it because of that power disparity in a vacuum. But between the way the set plays out and the lack of strong 1-drops and the way my pool currently is, I think it was a no-brainer that Mulan should have been the choice immediately there. Isabella, this isn't the deck for it. I don't have any bodyguards. Raja, I need some strong 2-drops. I'm kind of lacking it. I'm only at 5 right now. So Raja is perfect here. And also, although I don't have a ton of uninkables, 2 of them are 5-drops. So I don't really want 3 5-drop uninkables in my deck, ideally. Mufasa here feels like another kind of no-brainer to cause decent. But I already managed to snag one really late. And Mufasa here is... Mufasa's my 3rd favorite of the 7-drop inkables, but that's because Wendy and Mulan are amazing. But Mufasa is very serviceable. Orville is going to come up a few times, and I'm going to say the same thing each time, which is that Orville would be great with Miss Bianca if I ever drew them together, but I've only got one Miss Bianca. You can't count on that ever happening, drawing them at the same time or in the time that you need them, in the order that you need them. And I also want those 2-drops, that density of 2-drops, especially now with Lady. So again, Orville would be nice, but I think that the 2-drop Duchess is an easy call there. A few D's here. They're hopefully going to be ink regardless. I believe I take Stabbington Brothers because it's foil. And I've already got Pepper. So, yeah. Just a bunch of Ds. They're ink. Don't think about it too hard, Heath. Just go. Take the card, Heath. Just put it in your pile. Again, you can see I'm not even considering Yzma. I don't think she's very strong, and I think to a degree, obviously this is only going to be 3 matches, and you'll only see Yzma a couple of times, but to a degree I showed that Yzma is not as good as she's cracked up to be. Anna was a gift. 5 cards left in the pack, and I get Anna, who's like probably like, easily like 3rd, 4th pickable. That was a gift. And that really solidifies my 4 drops. Like, I'm done. I'm tapped out for 4 drops. Which is why I should not be taking Stabbington Brother here. It's uninkable. I'm already stacked for 4 drops. This should be Berlioz or Matthias. The 2 drop or the 3 drop should be there. I take Stabbington Brother. I shouldn't have. I think that's a mistake. But there it is. Emerald Coil here I take for science. I take for you all. I don't like it, but I went with it anyway. We got the same debate here. This time I make the smart choice. And I know I did last time too. I take Mariano here. Orville, again, if I knew I could get out Miss Bianca with Orville every time, sure, Orville will be better. But the 3/4 body is just so much better by itself that it's no question for me. So I take Mariano here. I wish I had 2 though. I wish I didn't have the TikTok, frankly. And another out of order for last pick. So now we're going to go through each ink cost. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow out my 3 piles. My keeps, for sure. My definitely nots, and my maybes. You can see Daisy Duck in her 4 pieces is already in the definitely nots. Baymax's charging station should also be in there. Sapphire Coil, I feel like, is the lowest of D for me. I want characters. If I'm going to take a D, I'd rather it be a character. So Sapphire Coil is out for me. I'm going to pull out a few more babies. Calhoun is a definitely no for me, but the Keshkim here, the 3 cost 4/3, is a maybe. The Pepper's a maybe. The Emerald Coil should be a no. It should be in the no pile. I put it in the maybe pile because people tell me that they like it, but I'm telling you, I think it shows out in the gameplay again. It's not particularly good. There's a game in the gameplay later where it's as good as it gets. Not on my side. And it's still not particularly good. So, alright, yeah, just pulling out all the D's here. So you'll see as I cross them out, and I'm going to pull out all the maybes. Right? So once I've got all my definitely nots, I'll see, okay, how many cards left do I have to eliminate? Right? And I think we've eliminated, if we count the charging station, 4 at this point. And we'll eliminate a 5th here with a out of order. Because we definitely don't need 2. We don't need 1, but we definitely don't need 2. So ultimately, our maybes are going to be... Oh, I don't actually eliminate. I should have. One of them, we don't need 2. 1 should have been an easy elimination. So really, we need to eliminate 4 here. So one of the out of orders for sure should be the Emerald Coil, but I leave it in. And I think I take out Edgar and the Stammington Brother and Keshkim. Yeah. So when I should have smartly taken out the Emerald Coil... Seeing what I see here, I probably would have left in Keshkim or Pepper. Oh no, I'd leave in Pepper. So I probably would have left in Keshkim instead of the Emerald Coil. But I'd take it out. 3 cost uninkable items that don't affect the board inherently without a character that you want to give evasion and the ability / desire to ink just is not a desirable combination for me. It can be good. Almost anything can be good. Lady, the 1 cost... uninkable 1/2 can be good if you got Tramp, but even then it's not that good because it's a 1/2 lore. Yeah, not interested, but there you have it. All right, we're going to pass it back to Heath to talk about the games. All right, let's get into round 1. I think we got a pretty solid deck. I'm pretty happy with it, so let's see how we go. So, just to be fair, I know that the video quality isn't great. I've got a good handle of it in my studio. It's not high-end quality, but I think you'll agree. The video here is pretty good. The lighting's pretty good. Still figuring out the whole on-the-road recording, so I am going to work on getting the video quality better. But love to hear in the comments, do you think that that it's good enough once it starts playing out, especially with seeing the cards come up as they're played, all that. Yeah, just love your opinion, but gonna try and improve on it. Just to be clear, we're not ending here. This is not, I'm not happy with where this is at yet, so I'm going to try and improve on that. So for my mulligans, I'm going to try and show you the cards that I'm keeping as much as possible. I think I do my best job here showing the cards that I don't keep. But unfortunately, I know that in later rounds, I don't show that as well, but I'm at least going to try and show you the cards that I kept. So you know the cards that I'm looking to keep in my opening hand versus the cards that end up in my hand post-mulligan. That at least I'm trying to look for. But what I can walk you through here is that I am on the play. So I'm looking to, build a kind of high quality play out here. Versus if I was on the draw, I'd be looking to control the game a little bit more. So I might be looking to take more bodies. So I'm also going to try and show the cards much more at the start in this first round. In the later rounds, I might not show them as much because hopefully by that time you know the cards that we're looking at. But I'll try and show them as much as possible throughout the gameplay. If you want to skip between rounds, I've got the timestamps in the bottom there. But yeah, not surprisingly, the quality of the competition improves as we go along. And if anybody's watching this that I played against, this is not a judgment. We're all working on improving. We all start somewhere with the game. But there's room for improvement there. And by the way, and I hope I've said this, but I'm happy if I can be of any help in that. And I will reiterate this until I'm dead. I don't assume that I am right. I will give you my opinion. I will defend my opinion. But I am very open to be proven wrong. This is why I'm testing out Emerald Coil. Because I want to see how I feel about that. So, where are we at so far? We've inked a 4-drop Dr. Calico because we've got Fidget. That's the plan for 4. We were very happy to see a good 2-drop, and that's why we were able to ink Cybug the first turn, because I prefer Elsa to Cybug. I like that 3 willpower on my 2-drops. Look at this. Cybug would lose to Penny the Orphan, whereas Elsa's going to be able to challenge into Penny and stick around. We drew Mulan. It's too late for Mulan. So she goes in the inkwell very easily. We got Bucky there. We love that. We're up to 1 lore. Game plan's playing out perfectly. We got Fidget that we can play next turn, or we could play Miss Bianca if we really needed to, depending on what our opponent plays. We've got Lady and Jasmine for later plays. We're going to have to get Lady out sooner rather than later because Jasmine requires an empty hand, and Lady is non-nickable. So we're probably going to look to play Lady first, but we'll see how the turns play out, right? I try to map out what my next 2 or 3 turns are going to look like, but then what do my next few turns look like depending on what my opponent does, right? I feel bad about what I said earlier about the quality of the competition improving. It was all very good, but I was trying to be more complimentary of my last round opponent than judgmental of my first round opponent. And I feel awful. So we've got Denahi here. Denahi is fantastic. And in fact, under normal circumstances, I would say that questing here with Penny was a mistake. But basically, Denahi is going to be able to eat Elsa for free. So I'm going to be able to remove Penny the Orphan while keeping Elsa in play. But Denahi's going to get to eat Elsa for free. But here's the thing. I don't necessarily mind that because now it's going to expose Denahi, and that's why I played out Miss Bianca here instead of Fidget, is because now that, even though I wanted to play Fidget on this turn, now that Denahi is out on the board, it's like, okay, now I need a body to deal with this. It's got resist 2. It is a beast. So here we are. I expose Bucky because ultimately I want him to challenge Elsa more, but I also don't want to slow down my questing. So I'm okay if he eats Bucky here. I think eating Bucky would be the right play here. But ultimately, I'd rather keep questing and not kind of get stuck in a stalemate. So whichever one he chooses to take out, then Miss Bianca can come back and deal with Denahi. Right? So we've got 2 uninkables in hand, so Fidget might end up having to be inked depending on what we draw. This is where even when I've got a low uninkability count, you can still get burned by it, right? But we've got enough really high quality 4-drops in the deck, and Jasmine's going to help us rebuild, that I'm not too worried about it. But I really think Lady has to go out next turn. And this is where... So I mentioned that I'm okay with Bucky being eaten. I misread Lady at the time, or misremembered, because I know I've reviewed it already, so I should know. Lady is on play. I was thinking on quest, because there's so many on quest abilities in this game. So now, in hindsight, I should have left Bucky back and forced him to challenge Elsa so that I can play Lady here and get Elsa back in my hand. Whereas if he challenged into Bucky, I wouldn't have been able to get anything back here. As it turns out, I didn't get anything back because I was thinking it was on quest, so I didn't take anything back with Lady. I should have. It will end up playing out all right because I need an empty hand for Jasmine. I feel like Lady is probably the right play here, but maybe I'm thinking that if I draw a 1-drop, that I could ink Fidget, play Lady and the 1-drop. I don't know. I think Lady is probably the play here, but that's also assuming that I remember that Lady takes Elsa back on play, which I was not thinking of at the time. So I think you can make an argument for either or, Jasmine or Lady here. I think it's way too ambitious to think I'm ever going to be able to activate Jasmine next turn. So if I'm not able to activate Jasmine next turn, the play here should have been Lady, take back Elsa, and next turn I can ink Elsa, right? Pacha is not of concern to me. Yes, Pacha's going to be able to quest for 3, and that's fine, but I've got 2 answers to deal with it. Bucky is thirsting to deal with Pacha. The only reason I want to keep Bucky around is, quite frankly, Miss Bianca, as they're both allies. So they work well with Jasmine, but when they're both allies and I got to get rid of one, obviously I want to get rid of the 3-2 over the 5-5. Even though they both only got 2 willpower left, Miss Bianca obviously just hits harder. I'm just reminding the player here, because again, all respect to this player. It's actually the father for my round 3 opponent. Love your whole family. Love you guys. I know that they're relatively new to the game, so I want to help them out. So I'm just making sure that they know before they dump out their hand that Pacha needs them to have more cards in hand. So remember that with Pacha. Pacha, you need to have more cards in hand to be able to quest for 3. And I just wanted to make sure they didn't end up dumping their hand and then not being able to quest for 3 with Pacha. I will let them take it back anyway, but I'm just reminding them of that. All right. So we draw Mother Gothel, so we wouldn't have been able to do anything with Jasmine this turn anyway. So with that in mind, once again, Lady is definitely the play, or should have been last turn. But that's okay, Heath. You live and learn. You get through it. So between Mother Gothel and Fidget, obviously I much prefer Fidget. So Mother Gothel goes in the inkwell, play out Lady. We're almost done emptying our hand. I think I pay 1 too little ink for Lady. I do. Just cheating all over the place on camera here, Heath. Great job. Okay, so I just mentioned that I would have preferred Bucky go in there. I think Bucky would have been the right play there. Is Miss Bianca not an ally? I'm pretty sure Miss Bianca's an ally. Maybe I'm misremembering Miss Bianca. If Miss Bianca isn't an ally, then definitely you run Miss Bianca in there. Actually, that is. Miss Bianca's a hero. Even though she wants allies, she's a hero. So I take that back. Everyone's already at me in the comments. It's fine. I'm not editing this. I have no pride. Miss Bianca's a hero. So yes, absolutely with Jasmine out. Yeah. So all the more it's looking bad that I didn't play Lady last turn, because Jasmine, I'm too scared to quest here. There's a lot of plus strength in this set, so I didn't want to run Jasmine into a +2 strength with the 3-2 there. So I could have quested freely with Lady, whereas I hadn't with Jasmine. So I should be 2 lore ahead at this point, but that's okay. All right, so we finally quest. We empty our hand, ink the Berlioz, play out Lady, able to draw 2 with Jasmine, which is fantastic. Able to quest with Fidget and give Jasmine evasive. I'm just reading out the card here for my opponent to make sure that it's very clear what's going on. I even put it kind of on top of it to say it is under that protection. All right, so we drew a tramp, but we're 1 ink and 1 character away from playing it effectively. I didn't play Lady last turn. I played Fidget. Thought I was cheating on camera. I'm really botching this. This is what's great about the live voiceover. He ain't making no edits. He's got no shame. I played Fidget last turn for 4. Oh my goodness. Whew. Again, feel like I should have played Lady. Get the uninkables out of your hand if you're trying to empty your hand for Jasmine, but that's fine. Spaghetti Dinner. It's a bad card. In Sealed, maybe. Sealed is slower, so for any of my Sealed brethren out there, Sealed tends to play out slower because the decks don't tend to be as strong, because you're not really curating your deck. You're kind of taking what you've got. So because the decks don't tend to be as strong, and you can't like force drafting 1 and 2 drops, you are usually ending up with a higher curve, Sealed tends to be slower. In that scenario, Spaghetti Dinner might be fine, but it's still an uninkable item, is not something I'm thrilled about. I kept Bucky back there because I didn't want Gizmo Duck taking it out. So it stayed back. All right, we got Sven here. So Sven is able to reduce the 3 strength of Akele, and we had 5 characters out, so now Tramp is 2 cost for a 2/6/2 lore. Ridiculous. I've got 1 card left in my hand, which is a card that I intend to ink, but I just wanted to see. I didn't expect I was going to deck out, so I ended up drawing 5 cards, and I have to discard 5. Ultimately, I'm planning on inking the card that I've got anyway, because I want to draw with Jasmine, but just in case there was a card that was good enough to warrant it, then I wanted to have it in my discard. But yeah, not surprisingly, we ink it so that we can draw 3 cards with Jasmine. As I mentioned before, Jasmine turned out a lot better than I anticipated. We get to make Jasmine evasive again. Now we're up to 12. And basically the game's won at this point, right? There's no cards that our opponent could possibly have that would lose us the game at this point. So we're going to take out Akele just because. -3 strength, so might as well. We'll quest up here now. At this point, I don't care about Bucky going, so I should be questing for 3 here, I believe. Up to 15. There is no reason not to. Heath, just quest. Oh, this is when I still thought Lady was going to get me back to 2 drops. No, Heath. That's not how the card works. This is where I cut it out. I do have a little bit of shame as I go, just not to waste your time, as I go through it and I'm like, wait a second, is that how it works? Go back, read the card. Nope, that's not how it works. Good job, Heath. Good job. Anyways, I'm up to 15. Like I said, there's nothing the opponent can do at this point. We're on to game 2 here. But the all-stars of this were absolutely Fidget and Jasmine. Not terribly surprising. I called them busted in my reviews. They turned out to be busted. Go figure. So, yeah. There's going to be some challenges going on here for the heck of it. Yeah, we might as well. You can all feel free to skip forward at this point. I'm going to keep recording so you keep having my face on the screen. Yeah, he challenges in order to play John Silver. Fine. Very powerful card. Very much too late. Oh. All right. We scoop. We are on to game 2. Do a little bit cutting. There, he's already cut my deck. They also play Star Wars Unlimited. I can't afford, both in time and mental capacity and financially, to have more than one obsession, so you're stuck with me with Lorcana. Sorry, everyone. Oh, my goodness. What is that? Is that my... Oh. I'm like, what's that thing in the corner? Again, Heath has no shame. We're not going to crop this out. It's my pen. My pen thing. Pen jar. All right. So, we're on the draw here. So, I'm interested in those kind of 3-cost, 3/4 bodies. But apparently I put that back. Oh, because I have Berlioz. That's why. Right? I like Berlioz more. That 5 willpower has really ended up being very powerful. Maybe I should have taken Gaetan's because I've already got the 2 strength in Elsa. So what happens if my opponent has a 3 willpower? So I feel like maybe I should have taken Gaetan there, but Berlioz has been so great. What can you... I drew it anyway. Look at that. Card Soldiers. Card Soldiers has been okay for me. It has liabilities that I don't like, and those play out in the games. So some people had it very highly. I think it's fine. I think in this set, it's probably strong because we don't have very many other options, but it's fine. So obviously, looking at the hand here, the goal is Elsa into Berlioz into hopefully draw some type of 4-drop. If I manage to keep all 1, 2, 3, I could drop Tramp on 4 into Jasmine or Sven on turn 5. But the real goal here is get Jasmine online, right? That's the big thing. Get Jasmine online. That is the goal. All right. So we're on to turn 2. They play out Grandmother Fa, which I have complete disrespect for. The cards already takes out Grandmother Fa. She gave 2 strength to Pain for nothing. I definitely think Pain should have quested here, right? What am I threatening? Even if I managed to threaten something to get rid of Pain, so what? It's Pain. It's a 1/3. This should definitely be questing here. Again, apologies to my opponent. This is just for the viewers to help you all out of my mindset around this. Again, not assuming that I'm right, but this is where I would go. I would absolutely be questing with Pain there. And likewise, I probably wouldn't be questing with Grandmother Fa here, but I don't know the deck. I don't know if there's bodyguards that would justify waiting. I probably would have, if I had another 2-drop, waited on it anyway, or maybe even just inked it. I see the 3/2 there. I probably would have played out the 3/2 rather than Grandmother Fa, but I think that a 1/1, even when it's gaining 2 lore, is just too fragile. Again, I've said this in the reviews. I know I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating. The limit is a war of attrition. You are going to run out of cards. You need to make sure you're either drawing more cards, or in a set like this where it's really hard to, unless you keep drawing Jasmine, that you can't be just throwing away a card to gain 2 lore. Unless it's the end of the game and you're going to win, right? This early. It's just such negative card advantage. So, you notice I didn't quest here because I didn't want to quest with the cards. Oh, they didn't play a 3-drop. That's rough. I'd love to actually go back and see what they inked, to see if they inked a 3-drop at some point earlier than this. They could have played the 3/2 ink Grandmother Fa and played a 3-drop. All right, so Elsa challenged into Grandmother Fa, which the Card Soldiers now sees a damaged character, has 3 strength, and I just obliterate the board. Yeah, this is not fair. We found a 4-drop. I'd still rather play Tramp out, but I got to get the Uninkables out of my hand, so I have a feeling I probably play the Stabbington Brother here next turn. You're to some degree reading my live reaction. I remember a little bit of playing this, but I don't remember the exact play lines. So we'll see. But I'm pretty sure I played the Stabbington Brother here, because when you got Jasmine, you just got to empty your hand. So, huge threat in Snow White, but at this point, I'm not even that worried about it. I've got 3 questers on the board. Snow White's not challenging into my stuff. So, what am I concerned about? Oh, he's showing someone, because it's a foil Snow White. He's showing his son, who was sitting next to him at the time. Yep, even though I've got nothing to rush into, absolutely clearing my hand of the Uninkable here is really important with Jasmine. Mufasa wasn't coming out anytime soon. So, easy ink there. In later matches, I tried to recognize that there was a glare in that corner, by the way, and account for it, but that's the Stabbington Brother. Not a ally, sadly. Stabbington Brother is a villain. Alright, Dr. Calico, really strong card, but again, I'm not that worried at this point. Yeah, it can take out Elsa or the cards. Most notably, probably Elsa, to maintain the no damage, maintain the resist. But questing for 2 at this point, not a huge threat. I still think Snow White's the best 4-drop, because Fidget also wouldn't be that impactful here. Yeah, that's where giving up that early tempo is massive, right? Yeah, they gained 2 lore for Grandmother Fa. They gained the 1 lore for Pain, but then I obliterated their board, and my board's so much wider now. And I'm going to be dropping Jasmine soon. I pull Mulan, so I'm assuming Mulan is... No, I think I kept Mulan because I'm like, okay, if I want to empty my hand, I want low drops. And Mulan's going to be great at also discarding an uninkable if I draw one next turn. So I believe I think I probably played Tramp here. Yes, I believe I played Tramp to see if there was better things to play in addition to Tramp. And then I believe I played Mulan after that. Or I might have played Jasmine. Jasmine actually is probably the play here. Probably Ink Sven played Jasmine. Again, get her ready to go with Tramp and Mulan. They're effectively both really low drops. So here, knowing that I've got Tramp, I don't want to give up my board. So I'm holding back the two smaller characters to keep out more bodies for Tramp, right? Like, if Tramp wasn't a relevant card, I'm just questing out here and being like, yeah, you get to eat Elsa for free, but I'm going to win the race. At this point, my daughter's just giving me a hug through the door, so I'm not going to cut that out because I want that in. I've got a 7-year-old daughter that I love very dearly, Elizabeth. Autism and ADHD, it's a heck of a combination, but she's the best. Very much into Pokemon right now, sadly. I got to get her on Lorcana, but Pokemon is the TCG of choice for her, which is really expensive, which is why I can't afford Lorcana cards. Anyways, try to keep my board wide, right? So obviously there's a chance there for Dr. Calico to do something to Berlioz or the Stabbington brother, but they both have more willpower than it has strength, so I wasn't terribly worried. Mushu, we're just discussing the rules here, that it does, in fact, give Dr. Calico 4 resist on challenge, which is sick. Great combination, by the way. If you've got Mushu, Dr. Calico is sick, but not going to be enough here, right? This is where you can have a bomb, but if you lose that early tempo, you can get run over. So for everyone that's drafting Wendy, the 7-drop evasive, over pain or panic, you might get blown out in the same fashion. Mushu is the best card in the set for draft, in my opinion. And they're about to lose the game because they fell so far behind on tempo, right? That Grandmother Fa and that lack of a 3-drop. Grandmother Fa on... So I played Mulan here. I elected not to draw and discard because I knew what I was doing. I played Panic to move the damage over, and I played Tramp for free. Let me just reiterate. I played Mulan for 1, didn't draw and discard because why bother? I played Panic and moved the 2 damage over to Snow White, and I played Tramp for free. And now I just drew 4 cards with Jasmine. 4! Oh my gosh, I feel so dirty. I believe, shout out Riley, my 3rd round opponent. I called his attention. I'm like, you have to see this turn. This turn is ridiculously disgusting. That play out was as good as anything I've ever seen in draft for me. That was ridiculous. Play 3 characters for 5 ink. And draw 4 cards. It's good. It's good. It's good. What? Yeah, 5 lore in characters. 3 characters that produce 5 lore total. Yeah. So, at this point, I'm like, I need to get rid of Dr. Calico. Right? He's too good with Mushu. So I was trying to do the math. I'm like, is there a way I can do this? But Berlioz won't deal any damage. Elsa won't deal any damage. So I'm like, all right. There's no real way around it. Stabbington brother and the card went in. And I'm happy about that because I wanted to prevent the 4 resist and the 2 lore. But at this point, I probably should have just quested out as well. Either or, I think, is a winning strategy. Again, I don't think there's any wrong way to make this out. I'm so far ahead at this point. It's not even fair. Yeah, that tempo piece is my preach of this game is when you're drafting and when you're playing, a lot of people dismiss 1-drops. Shout out Dick Burns, man. Fantastic for the brand. Fantastic for the brand. But on Twitter, on X, I got cards in hand. So many. I gotta to say, I disagree. You're saying that the one drops, like, don't care. Just ink, turn one, every turn. But at this, yeah, obviously it depends on the competition, what they're playing, all that. But do not dismiss how powerful it can be to just go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. Just curve out, control the early game, then start getting aggressive. Control the early game and then turn the jets on, right? And I'm staring down the best card in the game for draft, and it might as well be nothing. It might as well be a dead card. Oh, my daughter is showing me how she can throw a paper airplane. Yeah. Wild. Mind you, I mean, the run out was sick here. That last turn was just ridiculous. I wouldn't fault you again for skipping ahead here. Opponent played Ink Geyser, which is not helping you when you're behind. Don't play Ink Geyser when you're behind. Play Ink Geyser when you're ahead. Well, don't draft it. Don't play it at all. But if you're going to draft it, if you're going to play it when you're ahead. Do not play it when you're behind. So, yeah, at this point, I've just got so many cards in hand between the Ink Geyser, between drawing off Jasmine, that I'm just like, okay, how efficient can I be at this point? But I'll be honest, at this point, I'm just like, just play whatever. Oh, goodness. I think this is, yep. All right. So, round 2 opponent, and I gotta say, it doesn't play out in this match, sadly, but shout out to my round 2 opponent. I caught their last game at the end of round 1, and they got out the 10 cost Taka. I'm not going to put it on the screen because you should know what I'm talking about. If you don't, look it up. But there's a 10 cost inkable Taka in this set. And I said in my review video, there's no way anyone is ever getting this out. Well, in that game, he had shifted it out. Fair enough. I still think that's paying 13 to shift it out. 6 for the 6-drop Taka. And then 7 to shift it out is way too much. I think he won that game, though. But apparently, in game 2, he hard-cast it. So, props to you, my friend. Also, this was a couple that was new to our store. Again, I gotta shout out my friends at Aegis Games in Bellingham. If you play anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, gotta check out Aegis. Our community there is fantastic. Store owner Lee is an amazing human being and plays himself, which is always nice. But they do a bunch of stuff there. They do Warhammer 40k is like their big thing. But they do Magic, they do Star Wars, they do board games, they do it all. Lots of space, beautiful looking store, great location. We do leagues on Wednesday nights and Sunday at 12:30. So come check us out if you're anywhere in the area. Anyways, this couple was new to the area. They just showed up and they were delightful. They were lovely. So really happy to have you. And props to you for getting that Taka out. Yeah. All right. So we didn't have first turn play. We got Helga here to control some potential evasives. I really dislike 0 strength challengers, but especially on inkable ones. But she's so efficient. 2 cost for effectively a 3/4 on the challenge. That's great. And the fact that she's got evasive on your turn, so can challenge into evasives. Like, that's way too efficient to pass up. I was talking about Yzma. I was alluding to it earlier. Here we're going to show you that even though I am on the play, Yzma's ability is not going to matter, unfortunately. Now, that doesn't mean that Yzma doesn't matter here, because I quest for 1. I mentioned it earlier that I was afraid of the +2 strength in this set, notably Jafar. But also I didn't have a turn 1 play here. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I need to quest here. What's the likelihood that they're gonna, wreck my face? They did. You'll see in a moment. They play Jafar. This is about as good as Jafar gets, right? So I probably shouldn't have quested there, but I was a little bit greedy. So fair warning, especially in this set, Jafar is very popular. Maybe be careful about questing on turn 2 on the draw with your O4. But here's going to be my point. This is as good as Jafar gets, and it's still not going to be good enough. So I haven't inked yet. I drew for the turn. Therefore, Yzma's ability is not relevant. Therefore, I got an easy eat with Berlioz, and I'm threatening Jafar as well. So, as good as Jafar is, all the people that were in my comments on the review that this wasn't in my top hits for 3 drops, he's good. I like him. I think I rate him pretty highly, but not that high. He's still a 3-2 at the end of the day. Okay, our hand's getting a little bit slim. I realize I've got 3 cards in hand and only 2 cards on the screen here. So, again, Heath's messing up a little bit, but we'll get there. Let's see if we can figure out together what it is. Trap pack. Oh, we got another fidget in hand. That's why. I got rid of the 2 fidgets where only 1 fidget was played out. So we got 3 cards in hand. Hand's not as depleted as this looks like. And fidget into fidget's going to be pretty gross. But again, there's no fear here right now. Yes, there's negative strength cards that are in the game that could allow them to challenge into Berlioz, but okay, I lose Berlioz after it took out Yzma. That's not too bad, right? So in this kind of back and forth chess game, this war of attrition, Berlioz is looking like it's going to get a 2-for-1. Yzma got a good eat with the Jafar, right? But now they don't even want to quest, right? Because they're like, I don't want Berlioz to just take out Jafar, and rightfully so. But now I'm going to go fidget into fidget and just start going aggro in the air with evasives. And I'm not even worried about questing with Berlioz, because what are you going to do? You're going to trade with Jafar? Great. I would be thrilled with that. Yeah, there could be a rush character, right? So we could be on 5 ink. We could have Sven. But if Sven's eating Berlioz, that's not the end of the world. So, again, what am I afraid of here? So this is where the more aware you are of the set, the better positioned you are. Because you can think through what possible cards could they have. As you play more games, you'll see what cards they had in their deck, and you'll know it's at least in their deck. But you're like, okay, what cards are in the set that I'm actually going to be afraid of? That someone's actually going to draft and is going to impact me? You'll see in game 2 that I'm going to dismiss some cards that I don't foresee them having. That ends up punishing me. But I think overall, you're still fine. So now I think my opponent realizes that they're on the back foot with fidget into fidget. So they kind of have to quest here. And I think, I'm going to happily take this trade with Berlioz if nothing else is relevant. As it so stands, I don't really need to because I've got Panic here. So I can get rid of the supporter, then eat Jafar, and still be on the board. Yes, Miss Bianca's going to wreck my face, but I get to make it evasive. So not a problem, as Heath just realizes what he was doing. Yeah. Bianca isn't going to wreck my face because I make it evasive. Fidget is so good. Why is Fidget so good? Ah! Alright. So we're down to Tramp in hand, last card in hand, and yeah, even if we got to play it for 3, that's fine. So if we draw something next turn that we don't particularly like, great. We could draw and discard 4 cards and find the best card out of 5. Fantastic. If we find something cheap to play, that'll make Tramp even cheaper. Fantastic. We don't need to draw and discard anything. So really, we're happy no matter what. And Taka here is doing nothing, right? You could shift in next turn, and it's still not going to be good enough because I'm going to have all of these characters as evasives. So, yeah, we play that Tramp. So we draw the 4, find the best card out of 5, the 1 in our hand, the 4 we draw, and I mean, at that point, you're filtering that much, it's easily game, right? All right, we get rid of the easy stuff. Not really sure what question there is. I think, my question here is there's Lady in the hand, which is the best card, especially when you're discarding 2-drops, but I can't play Lady this turn. So would I rather a card that I can play this turn, or would I rather the more powerful card in Lady? I think considering how aggro I'm going, the answer should have been just a Berlioz that I can play this turn and quest with next turn. But yeah, I'm so far ahead. Why do I care about Lady next turn? I'm at 15 here, right? With a bunch of evasives. I just should have played another character because there's no Be Prepared. So just played another character that can quest for 1 more lore. And what am I afraid of, right? This is where you got to try not to get greedy. Sometimes a character in play is worth a heck of a lot more than a good card in your hand. Oftentimes. All right. We are on to game 2. And this is where I'm going to get punished a bit for my ego. So you're all going to love this. This is going to be your favorite game of the video. Heath gets brought down a peg by cards that he disregards. This is fantastic. Can he overcome it is the question. All right, so I'm on the draw. I want a more aggressive curve out. So Toby and Bucky absolutely here. Fidget, I think I would keep as a more defensive card, right? Give my bodies evasive in case they've got evasives I need to challenge in. So I'm okay with that. And then Sven is a great card to catch you up, right? So I'm happy with all 4 of those keeps. And I'm missing a 2-drop here, which makes me a little bit sad. But not the end of the world. Okay, so easy 1-drop here. The question is, what are we inking? And I think we're already stacked for 4-drops. So inking Miss Bianca as the weakest 4-drop makes a lot of sense. Gaetan here is a fine 3-drop, right? So if Bucky is just outmatched, maybe Gaetan becomes better. That's fine. Again, really missing the 2-drop here, which is unfortunate. Maybe that's why I should have kept less cards to dig deeper for a 2-drop. I don't love that my opponent doesn't quest here. I would be thrilled if their Toby challenged into my Monsieur Dark. Like, it's possible they're looking for that card draw value later, but just kind of quality of cards. Toby is so much better that I'd be questing here. All right, we draw another 4-drop, which is really unfortunate here, right? We are utterly flooded for 4-drops. Oh, I thought I inked Miss Bianca last turn. I might have forgot to take that off the screen. How many cards do I have in hand? 6? Okay, I obviously missed... I think it might have been TikTok then that I inked. Regardless, I am just flooded on 4s right now, so that's a problem, right? And when they're this good, you can get kind of challenged to ink them as you should. Right? Oh, I don't want to ink this card because it's so strong. Yeah, but you need to curve properly. Mother Gothel here. So we got a couple of competing 3-drops. I think Mother Gothel is not going to combine well with cards with less willpower like Toby and like Bucky. So I think that's the right ink here. But again, I'm at 4 drops in my hand and only 1 other card of a different ink cost. It's not exactly where you want to be. So now the question becomes, what card am I inking next turn? This is what I was referring to. We got Maurice's machine here. When I see that, all I'm thinking is, oh, he just wants to quest with Monsieur Dark and draw the card. But then he doesn't do it. So, what's going on here? Such a bad card. Such a bad card. It's inkable at least. But, yeah. Again, I'm very much don't believe in the item strategies in Limited. There is the occasional item that I've appreciated. Popsicle was obviously fantastic in Limited. But, yeah. Alright, I drew another 4-drop, but at least it was the weakest of the 5 now 4-drops that I had in my hand, so it was an easy ink there. So now the question is, which do I play out? And I end up playing out Fidget here. And I think that was a mistake for a number of reasons. It was a mistake because it becomes problematic that I played out Fidget. But also, I think if I'm trying to catch up, I should be wanting Rush. So I was thinking, but I'll have Rush next turn with Sven. So what if I go Fidget into Sven, and then I can rush something with Evasive, maybe. But even so, rushing for 2 Evasive is probably not going to do much. So I think the right play here should have been Beagle Boys. Beagle Boys into like a Miss Bianca, for example. Probably would have been really good. But I get greedy and I go with Fidget because I'm picturing, okay, if I get Fidget and Beagle Boys out, then I can rush anything with Evasive. But this is where it bites me. They play Maurice with Maurice's machine, which allows them to draw a card and banish Fidget. So I'm not really worried about that. I don't think that's the main reason why playing Fidget was a mistake, because you can't really anticipate cards like that. Or at least you shouldn't. Again, love my second round opponent. You were awesome. Your deck was awesome. I think this is a bad set of cards. I think that you can't rely on that working almost ever. And even when it does, like what if I had played Beagle Boys? You got no good targets. You got no targets. They were all 3 strength. So I don't want to be results focused. So I don't think that Fidget was the wrong play because of that. I think Fidget was the wrong play because giving something evasive at this point was not the issue. Rush would have been much more relevant. All right. So I draw off Bucky, I draw Raja, and here I think I make another mistake. I've got a bunch of 4-drops. I'm about to go up to 5 ink. Next turn, I can be at 6 ink. I could play a 4-drop in Raja next turn. But instead I ink Raja because it's not nearly as powerful as the other cards in my hand. This is where you can get blinded by the power of cards in your hand. A decent card on the board is worth more than a great card stuck in your hand. I'm a long ways away from playing 2 4-drops. So I need to be thinking about what next turn is. And I should be thinking this turn I drop a 4 or 5-drop. And if I keep Raja, next turn I can drop a 4-drop in Raja. But instead, I'm now stuck for many turns only dropping 1 character a turn. So I shouldn't have gotten greedy with all the amazing 4-drops in my hand. I should have inked Anna. And just recognized that I made a mistake. Or that I was going to make a mistake. Recognized that having the more powerful cards was relevant. I could have sworn I inked Raja here. Maybe I didn't. Apparently I just went through that whole preaching for nothing. I mean, it's still a relevant thing to say in that, have that mindset, but I thought I made that mistake. I think Miss Bianca. I think the right ink here would have been Anna. I think Miss Bianca, looking at what's on the board, I need the bodies here. But maybe I just thought the 2-lore quester might be relevant. I think at this point I'm thinking maybe I've got a race. I don't know. I think Anna was probably the right ink here. But apparently I didn't make that mistake after all. I'm really high quality commentary here for you all. I thought I had made that mistake. I did at some point, I guarantee you. I inked Raja where I should have kept him to be able to drop 2 cards and characters next turn. But I guess it wasn't this game. Now I'm in deep trouble, right? Now I've only got Beagle Boys, but I have no idea how much trouble I am in, as you were about to see. I think Toby into Trusty was a good trade, because Trusty can make it so that they get more favorable trades, but then they shift out Hero here, which allows them to draw a card because of the 3-drop Hero, and because of the ability it has Evasive, so now I've got a 6 willpower, 3 lower evasive. That is very problematic. I remember why I kept Anna, and I'm going to call out my own biases here. I dunk on Ward a lot in Limited. I think there's very few times where Ward is actually impactful in Limited. Think of how little removal there is. Ward is very often just a blank, just meaningless in Limited. I kept Anna in hand, I remember it now, because I anticipated, I knew that this player had drafted the Shift Hero, and I knew they had it, and I thought, oh, well, if they get out a 3 lower evasive, I can just lock it down with Anna. Forgetting that it has Ward. So I can't choose it with Anna. So as soon as it goes out and I remember that as Ward, I'm like, well, there goes the whole purpose of having Anna. Or of keeping Anna. Yeah. Ward, I've mentioned this before, because I think, to be fair to myself, I usually say most of the time it is irrelevant. Every once in a while, it will be relevant. This is that every once in a while. So it is not a complete blank, it is just a blank most of the time. Emerald Coil ends up being somewhat impactful in this game, but again, I think effectively Emerald Coil gains them like 2 lore, 3 lore. It's not nearly impactful enough to be worth the 3-drop uninkable, even though this is about as good as Emerald Coil gets, what you're about to see. So it gives Maurice evasive, so that I can't challenge in. Fair enough. Yeah, I just don't think that the coil was impactful enough, even though this was about as good as it gets for Emerald Coil. Alright. I'm not worried about giving anything rush, because I can't challenge in anything, so we're just going to quest with Beagle Boys. At this point, I really do feel like I'm racing. So I'm just like, alright, let's quest for 6 here, because I've got more cards in hand. So Pacha's going to quest for 6. But yeah, there's nothing to give rush to, so I do play Anna here and lock down Maurice, because it's better than nothing, right? It's 1 less lore for them. But, yeah. I guess Emerald Coil, I'm being unfair to Emerald Coil here, because it is going to protect his Jafar next turn, or would have. You'll see why it doesn't, which I have a problem with. But it would protect his Jafar here, that I would have been able to challenge into with like a Sven, or something like that. But I think it's still, I don't love it. And this is about as good as Emerald Coil gets. Okay, so quested for a ton, which was great. Locked down Maurice, which is fine. Just debating what to ink here, because I want to try and get towards a point where I can play 2 cards at once. So I think with Emerald Coil here, hopefully I realize that Sven is meaningless. Yeah, I don't ink. I think I should have inked Sven here, so the next turn I could ink and play Panic and Berlioz, or depending on what I draw, right? Worst case scenario, without an uninkable, ink and play Panic and Berlioz. But I don't, and I think that's a mistake again. Plays Big Elsa here, which is a threat, but it's 7 cost uninkable, 5/5 2 lore. Especially that since we're kind of racing here, so they're not really worried about the exert ability. Yeah, so Maurice is locked down. Obviously, you know, I think they should just be questing here, but they choose not to. They choose to trade Jafar into Pacha. If anything, I would have challenged with Hero. Yeah, he gets rid of the Beagle Boys, which is, again, fine, but the Beagle Boys isn't doing anything to him. So, yeah, he gave evasive to Maurice again. Fine. But that 2 lore quester, I think, should still be on the board. But obviously, I am in dire straits here. So I draw Tramp, which obviously isn't cheap anytime soon. I'm again looking like I'm inking a low-cost character, which, again, I think is a mistake. I need to be double... Oh, yeah, I play a... it should be 5. I paid 6 for it, but whatever. I'm anti-cheating. I'm paying too much. I think that was a mistake. I think what I'm thinking here is just it's a high willpower 2 lore character, so maybe I can quest twice with it. Again, I'm thinking of that race. So I think that's what I was thinking here. But if I'd inked Sven last turn, I could have just inked Tramp and played Berlioz and Panic. I could have moved the damage from Hero over to Maurice and got rid of that. Fine. Yeah. I mean, I recognize even here in this chair that I'm losing at this point kind of no matter what. But I think that would have probably been the best play, maybe. And I would have had 3 lore worth of questers next turn, up to 15. Maurice would have been out of the picture. He'd have to double challenge, so he wouldn't be questing. Yeah, I think that was probably the play. Yikes. Oh well. And now he gets a series of 2 lore characters in a row, which does not help my problem. Does not help my predicament. And also, that whole 6 lore, or 6 willpower 2 lore character is now kind of thrown out the window with Tekka there. And look, there's an Emerald Coil rotting in my hand. I chose to keep that, by the way, off of the draw and discard from Tramp. Because I'm like, oh, I think the only way that I'm winning here is by getting rid of their evasive hero. But again, I feel like I should be challenging here. Or I should be questing here. I should be racing, right? I would have forced him to double challenge here, and he would have been still at 8 lore. Yeah. Yeah. Panic and Berlioz would have been so much better last turn. Okay, so I do get rid of the hero, but as you'll see, that's still not enough, because Tekka is going to be able to take out Tramp. So I should be at 15 here, and they should, have... I mean, they will have a lot. Then what would have been my play this turn? Can't remember what I inked, but again, I'm losing this game pretty much no matter what, but I think I would have been much happier in previous circumstances. Both. Like I said, another 2 lore character did not help my predicament here. Alright. Yeah. Kill me now. Just end it quickly, please. Oh, no. I think I need timestamps with every game, so when the inevitability comes at the end of each game, you can just skip forward to the next game. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, they've got 6 lore on the other end. It's like, nope, this is not going where I need it to go. So, on to the next game. On to game 3. Oh, I didn't mention it before. Love that mat. Love that mat. They got it off Etsy, apparently. It's a little bit small, they acknowledged, but dang, that's some nice colors, some nice art, and a great character. So, shout out to the Cheshire Cat mat. If anybody knows who makes it, feel free to give the Etsy link in the comment. It's a little bit challenging with copyrighted characters, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. So just be wary that you shouldn't really buy things with copyrighted characters on them. But I don't know if they've got a way around that, whoever created this on Etsy, but sure is a dang fine looking mat. Isn't that Ursula mat a fine looking mat? Yes, it is. All right. So I kept a 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. I kept the Tweedles, which is an amazing tempo tool. Great. Drew into a 4. This is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game where I'm going to tempo the heck out of them. They don't have a 1 drop. Now you can see I'm like turning the jets on. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, they're not overly powerful characters, but they don't have to be, because I'm going to get so far ahead that it's not really going to matter. Especially with a body like Gaetan, when they're on the draw, Gaetan's going to be intimidating to pretty much everything. So, Queen of Hearts. I say let's go, but that's one of my, kind of worst ones. I mentioned it in the review. I don't see it very highly, but it is annoying. Right? My problem with it is what happens when a 4-strength character runs into it. My other problem is, look at here, I quest because my thought process is whichever one he runs into, I can just challenge back with that same character, and it's a 1-for-1, and it wasted their turn, and I got to quest. So, great, what's the worst that can happen? Again, obviously the worst that can happen is the man himself, and you'll see it again here. Jafar comes down again, and again, this is about as good as Jafar gets, and guess what? It's still not good enough. So manages to take out the cards, and all the power to them. So now they've got this 4-strength threat on the other side of the board. I can't afford to let them take out Gaetan with it. So Duchess has got to run in, but now Gaetan is threatening Jafar very effectively. So great. I'm rocking and rolling again. Now I'm up to 4 lore, and I've got 2 characters on the board to their 1. So just them missing that 1 drop, even though they've had a great run out since then, is already putting them behind because they're on the draw and I've got that early tempo. So they could have some great cards after this, and they've got some pretty solid cards. But right now it's not looking like enough, especially as we get the Tweedles out there. Because even if they manage to take something out, if it's a favorable trade, the Tweedles is going to bounce it back. Daughter's having a fun time in the background. I usually find you can't pick her up in here, even though I can hear her very clearly. But if you can, she's having a good time. Alright, so Anna comes down, locks down Gaetan, which this is where I feel like my opponent makes a mistake again. The opponent chooses not to quest. And what are they worried about? Fidget's obviously not trading with Jafar. And Gaetan's locked down. So yeah, I could have Sven. I just draw Sven. If he quested with Jafar, that would be an easy play. And that would be unfortunate for them. But you're playing scared at that point. I'm worried about the probably one card in your deck that's going to wreck me at that point. No, I'm good. I mean, the Stabby Brothers is bad as well. But again, I'm playing scared at that point. And sometimes it makes sense to play scared, to be smart about it. Right? What's the worst that can happen? This completely destroys my entire board. But if the worst that can happen is I lose Jafar, but the best that can happen is I get 2 more lore. Because what happens if I lose by 2 lore? Right? Because I played scared there. Alright, so we're talking about the interaction between Anna and Elsa. Elsa says if there's an Anna in play, she quests for 1 more. Basically, as far as you're concerned, Elsa quests for 2 if Anna is in play. Anna doesn't care about Elsa here. So we've got hero, so I'm worried about that hero shift again. But you'll see, I'm not playing scared. He tries to challenge into Gaetan, but I mentioned Gaetan's got evasive. I offered to let them take it back. They decline. I think I would have not quested with either at this point because Gaetan has a favorable challenge into both of them, right? And I can give it evasive. Obviously, I would prefer not to. I'm probably going to want to get the Tweedle's evasive here, but yeah. So at this point, again, ignore Sven. Sven makes it worse. But even without Sven, just Gaetan being able to get a favorable trade into Anna here is bad. So if your opponent offers for you to take it back, take it back. Alright, so I quest with the Tweedles, and I return Gaetan because 1, he's now exposed because I'm not going to give him evasive, and 2, I want ink for next turn. So I return Gaetan for both reasons, so I can kind of bring him back so that he's fresh again, but more specifically, probably so that I can ink him, right? I know I've got Mufasa in my deck. I know I've got card draw, so there's definitely a desire to ink. If I don't draw something on the next turn that would make me want to ink up to 6, then I would probably keep him in my hand to play out later. But as of right now, that's my thought process is he might be good ink. Alright, obviously Shift Hero would have been very bad here. But again, not playing scared, I can't play around that 1 card in their deck. Even though I know that they're going to aggressively mulligan for it, I can't play around that 1 card. So Sven here's the only one that they can challenge. So they know that there's no desirable challenges in there. So they're in a rough spot. Yeah, and I wouldn't do anything here either. There's really nothing to do, unfortunately. They really need to find... Yeah, I top decked another Tweedle, which is going to be ridiculous. So give Tweedle evasive again. We're questing up to 15. Like, again, there's not really anything that they can do about do at this point. Yeah. Pepper. Cool. Oh, I already had the Tweedles. I top decked Pepper. Yeah. Still just amazing run out here. So, they do find the shift line, but it's 1 turn too late. Because you're going to see what's going to happen. There's 2 evasives that they want to challenge, and they've only got 1 that they can. So, they're obviously going to challenge into Fidget here. There's a problem with that. She'll see in a moment. Yeah, Tekka can take out Sven. Hero can take out Fidget or the Tweedle. But then what? 1, I've still got 4 lore on board, so I'm going up to 19, so I'm probably winning then anyway. But even if I was a little bit lower lore, Tweedle's just wreck face here. Yeah. So if you don't remember, Tweedles, when they quest, you can return a damaged character to their owner's hand. Yeah. Say goodbye to your board! Such an amazing tempo tool. because your opponent is wanting to get favorable challenges, right? They're wanting to remove your characters and keep theirs on the board. That's what we're always trying to do, right? Well, the Tweedles punishes that. Even a character with Rush. So I mentioned that, so unfortunately round 3 here, you're not going to see the true round 3, because my true round 3 didn't record properly. But my opponent had a Rush character that I kept bouncing. And so that's less good, but it forced them to keep replaying it and keep the rest of the cards buried in their hand. So it's just such a strong tempo tool. But Riley here is my round 3 opponent. He's an amazing player. He drafted a really sick deck. So I'm like, this is a very reasonable round 3 do-over. You can see one of the cards in his hand that makes it why he's got a really strong deck there. That Pascal, man, that's brutal. All right, so managed to be on the play again. So call it what it's worth. I got lucky in these matches that I was on the play. Was I on the play each time? I think so. Anyways, regardless, definitely on the play where it matters here. So that's definitely a good part of the success. But you'll see that being on the draw, we can do all right as well, as we saw in round 1. So we kept a 1-drop and a 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop. Again, missing that critical 2-drop. Managed to draw a Jasmine and get the heck rid of that Emerald Coil. Yeah, it's been so bad. So the round 3 that you didn't see, Emerald Coil was even more garbage, and the Tweedles were incredible. Even more so than they were in that last game. That last game, you got to see them shine when the game was already won. This game, the Tweedles really won the game, and I wish you could have seen it. It was on Rhino. I challenged into Rhino with an unfavorable challenge. It kept my character on the board. I challenged him with Tramp into Rhino. Just to damage it, just so I could quest with Tweedles and bounce Rhino back to their hand. I wasn't able to take advantage of challenging their characters while they didn't have the extra willpower, but it just slowed the opponent down so much having to replay a 6-drop uninkable that tempo was massive. And I won the game after that. But it was a couple times. I think I bounced Rhino a couple times. I bounced Sven once. The Tweedles really shined in that game. They are as good as I thought they were. They're still like a mid to high B for me, but they're still really good. And I think better than some people give them credit for. I'm talking really low in this. I need to be more animated, more exuberant. But when I get serious, sometimes, that doesn't always come out. So my opponent's got Raja here. I've got Bucky out. Obviously, that's an unfavorable trade back and forth for me, but I do get to draw a card off of it, so it's not too bad. So you're going to see here I'm going to challenge regardless. My opponent chooses not to, which, sorry, Riley, but I think is a mistake. What's the worst that happens? I run Bucky into it? Yeah, you want that to happen anyway. So you'd have 1 extra lore in that case. So I would absolutely be questing here. Maybe you were anticipating making some use of Mother Gothel here in combination with that, but no, I think you definitely quest with Raja here. All right, so I'm kind of thinking out how my plays go here, doing the old tap the board trick. All right, so we draw into a panic, which once again, kind of flooding with 4s a little bit, but that's okay. So which 4 do we put out here? I think in this case, I'm thinking about allies. I'm thinking about Jasmine. So I'm pretty sure I put out Fidget here. No, I put out... because I've got the 5-6. So I put out Beagle Boys because I'm thinking about Beagle Boys into TikTok. I think that's fair. So I ink Fidget instead, and, that's unfortunate. But I think Beagle Boys into TikTok is pretty potent. So I don't mind that. I like Fidget here, but... it's fine. He plays out Pascal, which has me really regretting not playing Fidget. So regretting not playing Fidget. But, what can you do? And especially inking Fidget. Like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Yeah. Alright, so opponent's still thinking about Raja and Bucky. For me, I take that every day of the week. I will gladly get rid of Bucky if it means just trading off a Raja. Especially not knowing what I have, my opponent not knowing what I have in the deck, that if I have a way to deal with Raja. Alright, so here we go. Raja should have gone into Bucky, because now I got to give resist to TikTok, which comes up massively later, though I screw up how I document it, but you'll see that it comes up massively later. And I'm able to quest with Bucky again. And again, with no fear, because what are they going to do? Run Mother Gothel into it and not do anything? Run Pascal into it? No. Right? So again, there could be things that punish me here, but I don't want to play scared. So Bucky goes sideways. Alright, so speaking of the card that'll punish me, it's Sven. And again, that's okay, because ultimately, well, guess what? I've got TikTok here that can do a lot here. Okay, so we don't end up punishing Bucky anyway. But I have to explain the rules a little bit to Riley here. So he tries to move the damage after the fact, and I explained to him. I kind of stop him. I say, okay, this is not how this works. Mother Gothel is on challenge. So what happens is you declare the challenge. You move 1 damage from TikTok to the Beagle Boys. Then they deal damage to each other. In this case, Beagle Boys got -3 strength, so deals nothing to Sven. But Sven deals 2 damage to Beagle Boys. And then they're eliminated. Then they're banished. Right? It's not after the fact. So Mother Gothel triggers first. This is really important when there's something with 1 willpower out. You could challenge into something that may otherwise remove your character, banish your character, but move the 1 damage there before that happens, and then it's out of the challenge before any damage happens. So Mother Gothel's ability resolves before any damage happens from the challenge. So that's a really important combination. All right. So I run Bucky into Sven here in order to take it out, not surprisingly, because ultimately TikTok wouldn't otherwise, right? Unfortunately, TikTok has 5 strength and Sven has 6 willpower, but I want to get rid of Sven, so I challenge there. I think at this point I'm just thinking that they're going to be ahead in the race here because I can't deal with Pascal yet. So I think that's why I get rid of Sven, even though he's only a 1 quester. It's just, oh, okay, I'm in control now. Control mode, that is. Which is to say, who's the quester? We bring this up a lot, right? Who is the one that can afford to be questing and is pushing the race? And with Pascal, they are definitely in that position, and I'm definitely behind. So I need to control the board then. Here's the problem I have. They're in race mode. Mother Gothel should not be questing here. It's 1 lore and gives me a free eat with TikTok. Okay, so I mentioned the mistake I made. TikTok should be a 4 damage. I somehow move it from 3 to 2. It goes down 1 damage. That is not the case. So let's remember TikTok is at 4 here. Now, this isn't just a matter of for our sake. Please, Heath and all of us, pay more attention because this could influence what Riley does. Maybe he doesn't do something because he thinks, oh, TikTok still has 4 willpower. If he knew that TikTok only had 2 willpower, that might change his play. So I can assure you this was not intentional, but you got to be careful because this isn't just, one of those things where, so it so happens TikTok doesn't get removed at all this game, or maybe till much later. So the 2 damage doesn't have any effect of TikTok's never in play when it shouldn't be. But it may make an effect on how Riley plays out the rest of the game. So try to be careful. Don't make this same mistake I did. Anyways, I pointed to Cusco at the start of the turn to remind them, are we drawing or are we discarding? So Cusco is not a Bay ability. At the start, you either have to choose, does everyone discard 1 or does everyone draw 1? I knew they only had 1 card left in hand, so I felt comfortable leaving my 1 card, a good card in hand, that they were going to draw. And also, if I lost Panic, not the end of the world. They did draw, so I'm in good shape here. This turn is sick. So again, TikTok should be at 4 damage here. Again, it's not necessarily going to matter in terms of it being on the board, but yeah. Like, for example, Bell there. Maybe Bell would have challenged into it if it knew, but it's not going to end up being relevant. So I locked down Pascal here. Pascal is now not a threat currently. Okay. You saw me thinking about what to ink, because Berlioz is an ally, and I'm going to be drawing with Bell. So I was like, would I rather have the 1 card drawer, or would I rather lock down Pascal? And I think definitely, considering my opponent is at 13 lore, locking down Pascal is worth so much more than drawing an extra card. So I only draw 1 card as a result. Yeah. All right, so I've got Mufasa on the board, which could challenge into Pascal. But Pascal is neutralized right now. So I quest with Mufasa because I can challenge next turn. Let me get ahead on lore this turn. Right? So Jasmine only drew 1 card there, but that's enough. Right? Wendy Darling, very powerful. And get some advantage out of it this turn. You'll see in a moment. But again, I don't think enough to say that... imagine that last turn. If I had Wendy Darling in hand instead of Panic there, Panic was amazing in that last turn. So, yep. This is funny. So he challenges into Jasmine, takes 3 very temporarily, challenges in with Belle. His character is banished, triggers Wendy's ability, removes the damage from Susie. Very cute. Effective. If I wasn't in a position where I'm about to start really running away with it, that might have mattered. But I'm going to be able to get rid of Pascal. I'm going to be able to get up to 17 here. Wow, okay, I challenge just to make sure that they don't get ahead of me, and that's fair, right? 1 lore character challenging into a 2 lore character almost always makes sense, unless you're going to win, right? Which I'm always worried. Sometimes I focus so much on controlling the board, I forget to just win. I just did a quick recount in my head. Okay, I only had 7 lore. I could have only gone to 19. Because I will do that. You will probably see it on camera at some point. I'm calling it now. I will challenge into my opponent's board when I could have just quested and won. I do that sometimes. Anyways, yeah. So Wendy was not enough here. Went too wide. And, yeah, took it home. All right. On to game 2 of round 3 for all the marbles. Well, not technically all the marbles yet. There could be a game 3. But let's see how game 2 plays out. We'll be on the draw here, so we got to go more board control. And we got to get cards that are going to prevent our opponent from getting away from us. So it looks like we're going to keep card soldiers, which makes sense. 1 drop that can potentially be controlling. Mariano, the 3/4 bodies at 3. I love that for that type of game. I feel like Fidget and Tramp might be a little bit greedy. Well, maybe not Fidget, because I know he's got strong evasives in his deck, so Fidget might be right. Tramp might be a little bit greedy. So we draw into Toby, which is amazing for early board control. This is me saying, Toby is a good boy. If you're wondering why I'm so vociferously tapping Toby, good boy, Toby. Alright, Yzma comes out, which makes for some mathing to happen here. So you'll notice that, you'll notice that I ink a card that I had pulled from my deck. Apparently I accidentally slipped Sapphire Quill back in between rounds. Play 40 card decks, people. Don't play 41 card decks. This was a mistake to include that. Thankfully, it didn't hurt me, but it could have, right? So, play 40 card decks. Anyways, you'll notice that I don't play Duchess here. So what's the thought process? Well, the thought process is I don't want him to be able to challenge into Toby and have more cards in hand. So I needed to make sure that even when he drew a card on his turn, that we would still have at least the same number of cards in hand, which then he goes ahead and quests with Yzma. So now I do have more cards in hand, so I'm going to get rid of Yzma here before it causes any problems with coming back. Yzma must be removed. So again, Yzma causes your opponent some aggravation, some potentially non-ideal lines. It would have been better, I would have been happier playing a turn 2 play, a 2-drop, Duchess on turn 2. But at the end of the day, it still got removed. So it's okay, but I think that was Yzma's best case scenario there, outside of obviously being able to go back to hand. The best case average scenario, I guess you could say. So really like Mariano holding up Bucky here. My opponent chooses to quest with Bucky, which is, I think, a little bit ambitious, but potentially my opponent's thinking what I'm thinking here, because you'll notice that I don't challenge in with Mariano. What's the motivation here? I'm taking a free challenge almost. Well, then Susie can challenge back and remove Mariano, whereas now, with Fidget in play, I can wait, I can let them get one more lore, wait and do that same thing next turn, and give Mariano evasive so that Susie can't then challenge back. So that's my thought process there, is let them have one more lore, wait one more turn. And the glare here, you can't really see it, but that's Kuzco that just came into play, the 2-2 evasive. So that kind of messes with my plans a little bit, but not really, because if he runs Kuzco into Mariano, I'm thrilled. So I can effectively do what I'd planned to do here, which is challenge into Bucky, and then preserve Mariano with Fidget. Looking at the cards in hand here, I think very obviously the play is Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It's a decent sized body, it's being most efficient with my ink. Berlioz is a pretty obvious ink here as well, just in case I want to go to Ka next turn. So, like these plays, very efficient. My opponent's going to be able to quest out here for 4, which is a little bit problematic, but not the end of the world. So he chooses at the start of his turn to have us both discard. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, if I got a discard, I'd rather have Tramp because there's a good chance that I can go wide and get Tramp out relatively cheap, right? Like next turn, if I've got an Inkable, I can drop Peg and Tramp. He plays out Rhino, which is a really big deal and really messes up the math because now Susie's a 2-6. But Kuzco's a 2-4, and you'll see here in a moment that that doesn't necessarily prove as problematic. So we draw Sven here, which could be decent, but unfortunately into this board doesn't really help me all that much because what am I going to challenge into the 2-6 Susie with Sven? So I think I wisely ink Sven here. It's just not doing much on this board, which allows me to do what I said, which is play Peg and play Tramp. Now, I think in hindsight, what I should have done is I just played Tramp out and obviously didn't draw on discard because I didn't have any cards left in hand. What I'm doing here is I'm giving Tweedledee and Tweedledum evasive and then challenging in with Kuzco. I think I could have maybe quested with Tweedledee and Tweedledum after questing with Mariano and bounced Mariano back, then played Tramp out and drawn 3 and kept the best out of the 4 cards. I think I like getting Kuzco off the board anyway, because they could have just had me discard the 1 card that I kept with Kuzco, and it would have been an extra 2 lore. So I don't think that was necessarily the play, but it was something to consider at least. Alright, so we're in a tough spot here with Rhino. Rhino's going to mess up the math considerably, and that massive willpower. I'm just reminding my opponent that Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and Fidget are evasive, so the only target for them to challenge into is Mariano, but obviously that's a great challenge in for them. They don't take any damage back, and Mariano is taken off the board. So, we're in a tough spot here. We're down considerably, and thankfully Peg is active, so we're able to draw up there. We've got, looks like Emerald Coil and Miss Bianca. So we play out Miss Bianca. It's a good sized body, that's fine. The Emerald Coil isn't really necessarily doing anything right now. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and think what to do here. You see me kind of messing around with Tramp a little bit. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. My thought process here is I want to remove Rhino off the board. But the issue is I don't really have anything to be challenging in with to take advantage of the fact that Rhino's off the board. If I challenge, say, the Tweedles into Susie, they trade. I don't like that. And to get Rhino off the board, actually come to think of it, I need Tweedledee and Tweedledum to quest to bounce Rhino. So there's just no way to make it advantageous other than the fact that it slows him down. And I think at this point, with him at 13 lore, slowing them down ends up being the line that I take. I've got a decent amount of 2 questers on the board. Yes, I'm going to expose Tramp to Sven, taking them out the following turn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to challenge Tramp into Rhino, quest with the Tweedles to bounce Rhino, to slow my opponent down so that they have to go ahead and replay Rhino. And then the rest of the cards in their hand get kind of stuck in there. Sven would then be able to take out Tramp, but not without receiving damage in turn, which would then allow me to bounce Sven the following turn. So my whole thought process here is let's protect the Tweedles with Fidget, and let's just slow my opponent down so they constantly have to be replaying. They can't widen their board at all. They're constantly having to replay the cards that I bounce. And I've got enough questers here that I should be able to then eke out the win. We'll see how it goes, but that's the thought process that's going through my head at that time. So you see my opponent has Pacha and Bucky in hand here. So basically they get the choice, do they play Pacha and Bucky or do they play Rhino out again? They choose to play Rhino. I think the play here should have been Pacha and Bucky. Keep Rhino in hand. Next turn, you're almost certainly going to have more cards in hand than me, and Pacha's questing for 3. So I think it was a little greedy here for them to play Rhino out again. I think I would have been in a really tough spot if they played out Pacha and Bucky. So that was the best case scenario for me. Again, you'll see here Sven's able to take care of Tramp. And, you know, I expected that and was okay with that. Because even though I'm going to be bouncing a Rush character back to their hand, I'm still bouncing back a character that they then have to replay again. And when I'm protecting a lot of my characters with Evasive, that's not so bad. So I can't win this turn, so drawing with Peg is definitely the right course of action. Unfortunately, I can't really realistically eliminate any of their characters other than returning Sven to their hand. So Miss Bianca, although I'd love to challenge Shuzi, unfortunately she's a 2/6 right now. So really questing out is my only option and hoping they don't have a Honeymaron to gain the last lore. So they've got 19 on board. And I'm counting on the fact they don't have immediate ink. There's the song as well. Or immediate lore, rather. There's the song that could gain them immediate lore as well. So I play out the Emerald Coil, ink, in order to give Peg Evasive. So now I've got 5 lore worth of characters Evasive. I'm at 15. So unless they can deal with those 3 characters, I will win. Assuming that they don't have immediate lore on their side. And it turns out they do not. They end up replaying Sven, challenging for the sake of challenging my Miss Bianca. But really, there's nothing that they can do at that point. They can't deal with the 5 lore worth of characters that I've got Evasive. So we take it down. And that's really it. And I can't stress this enough again. I was on the draw here, but those tempo plays, and especially here, really, I think the Tweedledee and Tweedledum really proved their worth in this game. How with some, again, it's not obvious strength. It's not just, play this card and win. You got to think about how you're using it, but especially in combination with Fidget or with a bodyguard or something to be able to protect it. It can be an amazing tempo tool. Emerald Coil was obviously fine here, protected Peg for a turn, but I really think Emerald Coil is a cut. Unless, and again, I've said this in the review even, unless you have no other ways to deal with evasives. Like I had 2 Fidgets in here, I had Helga, I had ways of dealing with evasives. Emerald Coil is really your last option to deal with evasives. So hopefully this was helpful for you. But yeah, this was a great run. We dropped the 1 game in round 2. We went 2-0 round 1 and round 3, and I would argue Riley had a great deck and is a very capable player. So I was really happy for that. Let's stop here. Oh. Wow. I got too enthusiastic. I don't know how much of my confused face you're going to get in the edit here. But I'm like, oh, that's it? That's it. I was having too much fun. That is the end of the matches. So we had the draft. We had the 3 matches. Managed to go 3 match wins. 1 game loss out of those. And the round 3, by the way, that you missed, the true round 3, I went 2-0 as well. So the deck played out beautifully. The curve wasn't precisely where I wanted to be, but it was still quite good. The power level was exactly where I wanted to be. Would I have been happier with the foil Donald Duck? Maybe. But, yeah. I do it for the content. I do it for you all. Thank you all. If anyone had stuck around this long, stuck around for like almost 2 hours, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. Let me know if you want to see more of this. I make no promises, but I'm going to try and get content out once a week on Saturdays. try and get you out. Hopefully, gameplay like this. Maybe some discussion on how to build out Cube. I don't know what it is yet. If there's specific limited content you'd like to see, let me know in the comments, please. Gameplay or otherwise. Definitely otherwise, because otherwise it's probably going to be a lot easier. Because unfortunately, I need other people to want to draft and play sealed and pay the money to do so. To do that. And everyone's always focused on constructed. So it's a battle for me too, friends. But yeah, I'll stop rambling now. Thank you all so much. Love you all. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.